what I have is VS Code on the left side and a browser on the right side. I have a blank slate to start with the exception of just an images folder, and I have three icons in it. They're all the same but just different size, so 16, 24 and 32 pixels. Chrome will try its best to load the right one for the best resolution. So that's that. So as I said before, what you do is you start off with a manifest.json file, and this will pretty much describe your extension. So we're going to do that. So I'll say manifest.json, right? So basically what it is just you have an object and you define your properties in it. So we're just going to say manifest version, and we'll say 2. This one actually you can just find it on the developer.chrome I think website, and then we will give it a name. So let's call it take a break, and we will just say it's our first version, so we'll just say 1.0. Alright, so we're just going to give it a description, and this will appear in the when you install the extension. You'll actually see what this is about. So we will just say alerts the user to take a break if sitting for too long, something like that, right? So we have done that, and actually, believe it or not, we should be ready now to load this into Chrome. So we can come over here, click on settings, and then click over here, and you can go to extensions, and then you're gonna do load unpack, because we haven't packed it yet, so it's not ready for shipment. So we're gonna go to extension, just click on that main folder demo, select folder, and there you go. So that's how your extension is actually loaded right now. The icon is just looks like a generic icon, and that's because we haven't specified the icon over here yet. So let's do that next. So what we can do is we can define something called a browser action, and basically it's an object, and we're going to say default icon, and what you have is just another object, and then we can define the different sizes. So for 16 pixel we can say load the icon 16 PNG, and then I'm gonna define the other ones. .png, and we're gonna close this off. So let's save it, and once I reload, there you go. So as you can see, every time you make any change you have to hit the reload button, just so that you can refresh your extension, and now we have the correct icon over here. Alright, so what that is done, we're gonna give it a title, because currently it looks like it doesn't have any. Well, it has a title which is pretty much the name. So what we can do is we can say default title, and we're gonna say get. And what do we do? Okay, so now we have to define in the browser action, you define a file where you are gonna have the view that's gonna open up when a user clicks on it, because currently when I click on it, nothing shows up because we haven't defined any view for it. So this is where you're going to define that over here. So we will say default underscore pop-up, and we will say pop.html, right? So we have done that. So I'm just going to refresh again. So there you go. So the default title is coming up, but we're not seeing the pop-up because we haven't defined it yet. If I click on it, then you just get this error page, right? So what you do over here is we're going to come over here, and we're going to say pop-up.html. We're going to define that. So in this file, whatever you define here, actually put here, that will actually show up. So okay, so we're just going to start with an HTML template. Going to pick HTML5. Actually, I don't need that. And what I'll do is I'll just give it a title, and I mean whatever title we give it, it's up to you. Okay, so we're just going to give it a title. We will just say get up, and that's going to hit save. We'll reload, Now if I hit it, there you go, you get a blank page, no error, means everything is loading fine. I don't know that title actually matters. Anyways, so the first thing we were going to do is just define the body. So I will just start with a div, and we'll give it a class. We're gonna style this later. Let's just give it an ID. Actually, we're gonna style this later. So let's create a button and submit. Value will be start and ID will be start, and then I'm just gonna copy and paste this one. I'm just gonna call this stop, and the ID will be stop. Right, now we need a place to actually show the value to the user, so we're just going to create a h1. Just going to give it ID of minute, and if there's nothing, it's just going to display these 2 dashes, and you can write anything you want after that. So I'll just hit save, reload. There you go. So you got your UI here. Currently it doesn't do anything because we haven't hooked anything up. So now we're just going to write the JavaScript that will give it the actual behavior. So just like any other web page you do, we're just going to add a script tag, and we're going to define the source. So I'm just going to call it main.js. I haven't created yet. I'll create that. Just going to hit save. If you want jQuery, you can include that here. Now mind you, you cannot link to any external scripts because of security policies. So you can just get the minified version and dump it into this folder. But that said, I'm just gonna create the main.js file, and boom, we have a main.js file. So what we're gonna do is we will say window.load onload not abort. We're just gonna run this function, and basically in the window load this function will be run. So let's just for fun do an alert hello world. I don't need that. So I need to save this over here, so I'll reload, and there you go, you're getting your hello world. So that means this thing is loading fine. We're gonna get a reference to our 2 buttons over here. So I'll just come over here, I'll get rid of this, and what I'll say is button start is equal to document get element by ID. I know this would have been easier with jQuery, but what the heck, right? I'll just copy and paste. I'll say button end, not button end, it's button stop. Yes. Okay, so we got those, and let's hook up a click listener. So we will just say button start, we'll say that add event listener. And what kind of event listener we want? We want a click event listener, and then we want to execute this function. We'll just do this. So I'll just you know what, so I'll just say alert, I'll just say start, and we're just gonna copy this and one for the stop. And what I'll do is I'll say stop. So there you go. So if everything went well, when we press these buttons, we should see a dialog box. Start, that's good. Stop, nice. Alright, so that's working well. Let's get rid of that, get rid of that. So we got rid of those 2 things. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to run, I'll just save this. What we need to do now is once you hit the start button, we need to start a background timer, and once we hit the stop button, then we need to actually stop the timer. And what we have to do now is, for that to happen, we need to create another script, and we're going to call this the background script. So but before I do that, we need to go into the manifest.json file, and we need to actually tell the extension about our background script. So what you can do is you can go just add tag just like that after you have added your comma background, and basically you just define your scripts here. So this is an array, so you can have an array of scripts. I'll just call it BG for a background, and we don't want it to live forever, we'll just say persistent false. I guess you could use persistent true in scenarios where you're doing some sort of a I don't know, network communication over sockets or something. So yeah, in that case you need a persistent one. So, and this is like a security thing too. If you don't specify a background script, anybody can just maybe inject a script and run it. So this helps with that. All right, so once we have that all squared away, I'm gonna come over here. We're just gonna create this background.js file, bam, like that. All right, so now what we need to do is, as I said, we need the main script file is actually gonna post a message to this guy, and then it will do its thing, whatever it has to do. And to actually create a listener, we go do something like this: chrome.runtime.onMessage.add listener yeah. Alright, so we create a listener, then we have a callback function, and the what we get in here is the message that was passed to us, and I'll show you guys how this message is being passed. So what you do is you say if message dot action, it's just a JavaScript object, start, then we do whatever we have to do. We say start the timer, right? And then if it's stop, I guess, and then we would just stop the timer. So we say message dot action equals stop, and then we say stop the timer, right? All right, so now what we will do is, just to make sure this works, we will just do an alert. We'll say start, and let's save it. So now over here I need to actually send over the message to this guy, and the way we will do this is basically just send message. That's all we're going to do. So we'll just say chrome.runtime.send message. The first parameter is null because we don't want to give it any ID. And what we do is we just define our action. So you'll say start. That's what we're gonna do. That's how simple it is. So let me just reload this guy, and if I do start, there you go. So that means they're actually communicating with each other. This is actually sending to this guy, and yeah. So you know what, I'll just do one for stop just to make sure this works. I'll say stop, save it, reload, hit it, stop. So stop is not working. Why? Because we're not actually doing anything. So I'll say chrome.runtime.send message, and what you do is we're just gonna say action stop. All right, I'll load it again. When I say start, I get a start. When I say stop, I get a stop. So that's good. These two are actually working now very well, and they can communicate. And now what we can do is we can actually start the timer. Here I'll just go to my background. I'll remove this, remove that. We're just going to start our timer. So we'll just say seconds. We're just going to keep our unit of measure in seconds so that it's consistent across the board. So let's start with that, and then we will say timestamp equals to get the current date, get time. This returns time in milliseconds since the last elapsed time. Then we will add 1 RV expiring. We're gonna times it by 1000 because it's in milliseconds, so we want to convert it to seconds. So basically what you're saying is take the current time, add 1 RV, one we have to expire, right? So we do that, and basically what you do is then we create a tick function that will just keep ticking until this thing expires. So we're just going to create a self-executing function. We'll say function tick. If you know JavaScript, I'm sure this is familiar to you. I'm going to close this off, and what you do here is we're just going to see how much time is left. So we will say left is equal to mat.floor. I'm just going to take the upper bound. I'm just going to say timestamp minus take the current time, how much time has elapsed, and we're just gonna divide by 1000, right? So basically what I'm saying here is, I'll just spell this. What I'm saying is take the timestamp when we have to expire, subtract whatever time we have, and this will tell us how much time we have left. And we just say if left is less than 0, that means we are done, right? Otherwise we're just gonna keep we're just gonna do update, and this will update the UI with the countdown. And basically final thing to do is we're just gonna call ourselves every second, right? So basically what you do is, with this we're just calling ourselves this function every second, and then that's how we calculate the time. So that's that. So now we need to update this UI over here with the countdown. You can't do that from here. We need to post it back to the main script so that that can update it for us. And to do that, we can just create a simple function over here, do update, and we're gonna it's gonna get passed into it an object. We'll just call it update object, and we'll just say chrome.extension send message. So this is the same as we did before, nothing new over here. And the action will be update, and what are we passing? We will just say time, and we'll just say whatever is passed in here, so update. So I guess I need to do that over here. So I'll say do update, and basically what I'll do is I'll just say minute left, right? Okay, I need to clean this up. Alright, so basically every whatever seconds are left, it's going to call that function, which is going to send a message back into the main script, and it will tell it to actually update the UI or do whatever it has to do. So now back into the main script, what we need to do is we need to create a listener. So I'll come over here and I'll just say chrome.runtime.onMessage, okay, message. And what we need to do is we need to add a listener, not add event listener, add listener, right? We will create a listener that will have a callback function, and what we'll do is we'll say if message dot action equals update, then we will say update the UI. How are we going to do this? So what we have is over here in the pop-up.html we have this div or this h1 created, so we just need to update this. We're going to get a reference to that, so I can say document.getElement by ID, and we call it minute, and then you can just say inner text, we'll say message dot time, right? Because this is what we passed in here, time. We need to update it with that. Alright, so if everything worked well and there are no errors, so when I hit start I should see something, but I'm not seeing anything. So let's see why. So okay, so I'm hitting when I hit click, it's coming here, then it's going to the tick function, and okay, so if I just do an alert here, let's see if actually, yeah, I'm just gonna do an alert here to see if this actually is coming over here, right? So refresh, start. Oh, so it does come here, so that's good. Alright, oh yeah, so you have this self-executing function, and for that to work you need to call it, right? That's very important. So if I come here now and hit start, hey, look at that. So as you can see, it's actually doing its timer, and as the timer keeps on going, this is actually updating. If I click here and click away, it'll start from where it left off. So that's the beauty of background. So one thing we need to do is we need to just return from here if it expires, because we don't want it to continue counting. Okay, so now that we have that all nice and done, then what we need to do is when the timer expires, we want to update whatever page we are on and display that nasty pop-up message. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to do the same thing from the background script. When the timer expires, then we will just say, you know, show the pop-up and maybe send a message saying expired. Right, so the way we're going to do this, I'll move this up over here. Alright, so we're just going to say that Chrome extension send message, right, and we're just gonna tell people that hey, timer has expired, so that whoever is listening for this kind of message, they're gonna do whatever they have to do. And yeah, and now over here what we need to do is we need to inject script into the page, right? So this is where when the timer expires, we're gonna update the page with that crazy pop-up. So maybe what I'm thinking is we'll create a function, right? And what this function will do is this will actually inject the script. So we'll say inject script, and the way you inject a script is you use something called execute script. So we will just do Chrome dot tabs, so whichever tab we're on, execute script, right? And what you do is, I'm not passing IDs because I let it just create its own ID. And so what we're going to do is, you can have a couple of options. You can define a blob or a script right over here, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have the script in a separate file, and that will be executed for us. So I'll just say file, and we'll just create a script inject, and this script will run when this thing is over. So what I need to do first is call this. So I'll say inject script, and then over here I need to create this inject script. So basically this is just again just a JavaScript, and you know, you can get fancy with it, do whatever you want. So what I'll create first is a div. That'll be my container, and I'll say document.create element. Create element, that's right. So we're saying give me a div, or create me a nice div. And what I'll do is I'll just div to this div. I'll add a class to it, and I'll say giant nasty pop-up, and you will see why I'm doing this, adding this class. End, then we're just gonna body.append child, what is it, the div, right? There you go. Woo, awesome coding. Alright, so I'm just gonna refresh this over here. Let's come over here and let's start. So right now it's counting, it's gonna count, and I'll just pause the video so that you guys don't have to watch this thing count. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and nothing happened. Let's see why. Oh, we got an error, so that's good actually. So as you can see, this will be a good way of debugging your extension. So if you get any errors, they'll show up here. So if I click on it, it says uncheck runtime last error, it will be stored in this object too. Cannot access content of the page. Right. So basically what they're saying is you don't have permission to change this page because you haven't asked for it. So this is where we're just going to go back into our manifest.json file, and we're actually going to add some permission. We need to add the permissions for whatever we want to change. In the permissions you can define things like local storage, any tabs, any specific URLs, and things like that. There's a whole lot of things you can do. So we'll just say permissions, it's an array, and then I'll just say active tab, and then I'll say tabs. You want to change that. I'll just hit save, and we're gonna clear all, go back, reload. Let's go to this page, and I'll say start. Alright, so I'm back now, and let's see if this actually works. Oh, right, so there you go. So that actually worked, and we get the message. So if I click on dismiss, yay, it goes away. That's amazing. So the other good thing about this is, I mean, I can click here, click start, and I can click away, it goes away. So now that's the beauty of that background script. It's actually doing its thing in the background. So if I click on it again, it will continue from where it left off. So I mean, you could just go away, do your thing, you're sending emails, whatever, and this thing will just run, and once it reaches doom, there you go, I can dismiss. So there you go, that thing is working very well. Now we need to add this stop button thing so that we can stop the timer from counting, right? So what we can do is, I think we did over here in the we added the stop thing, so we can use that. So we have a set timeout, it returns an ID, so we can use that. I guess I'll just come here, creative var, and I'll say timer ID is equal to -1, and hey, that worked. And I'll say timer ID equal to set it to that, and when somebody actually calls stop, so what I do is I'll say clear timeout, and you just want to give it the handler, so I'll say timer ID. There, that works. So let's give this a shot. So I'll reload my script, I'll hit dismiss this, and I'll start, and if I hit stop, let's see what happens. Alright, so there you go. If I start again, starts again from beginning. I can stop it again, and yeah, so that works. The problem with this, one problem with this I see is that when I hit start, see how it's just starting from 30 seconds. I think it would be cool if we could give the user ability to actually, you know, click here and change the options, like, you know, they want to set it for 2 hours maybe, or they want to set it for half hour. So maybe I'll leave that for another video, and you guys can, you know, comment on this, or if there's anything I missed, just let me know. I'll post the code on GitHub, and I'll post a link in the description. And till that time, over and out. I think it's time for me to get up.